In the early Indus Valley seals, then, we think that we're looking at fairly early examples of the use of mudras. And I'd like to have you look right here at the hand gesture that's shown on the seated figure. Okay. We have examples here where I tried to match in this figure the exact mudra, but let me make sure that everybody understands what a mudra is, because it's going to appear in Hindu art and also in Buddhist art, in both forms of Buddhism, in fact. So it's pretty common. A mudra is a symbolic or a ritual hand gesture. It would have been immediately understood by anybody who was looking at these works of art, and by learning them, we can interpret the works of art and understand them a little bit more fully. Okay, this is another mudra, not like the one we just looked at, but it is related. And this is an individual who is in a position of yoga. And the hand gesture here, I think, is a match for the hand gesture over here. And this particular mudra is a mudra that is used in meditation. And it references the knowledge or wisdom that can be gained through contemplation. So it is associated essentially with meditating and being in the present moment as one meditates. There are other samples of Indus Valley seals that suggest continuation and use later in Hinduism as well as in Buddhism. And one of them is the swastika design. The word swastika is of Sanskrit origin. It is a universal symbol of good luck and good fortune. I know that's not what you think when you first look at it, but this is a very old symbol. Please don't blame the swastika for Adolf Hitler. It was first used, as far as we know, 10,000 BCE in the Ukraine. This is at the end of the Paleolithic period, just before settled civilizations begin. It also appears later in Persia in the Zoroastrian faith as a sun symbol. And if you look at it, I think you can get the idea of energy and the rays of the sun. It is still used by Buddhists and Hindus and Jains today. And those individuals who were in Germany in the 20th century were allowed to use it there. Adolf Hitler is going to adopt it very early in his rise to power because he simply thinks it's cool. And unfortunately, it has remained associated with the Nazi movement. That's not its original use, and it is a pretty universal symbol. It does appear in the Indus Valley, the seals up here. Down here, we have over here, a modern Hindu temple that is still using that symbol as a symbol of good fortune, of good luck, of good things to come. This is a Buddhist footprint that comes from the region of Gandhara, and I'd like you to go inside the toes and take a look at those swastikas. So this is a fairly old symbol. It was continued in Hinduism, and it will also be continued in Buddhism. And we can again trace its lineage back to the Indus Valley. We also believe that the early Indus Valley civilization had a fundamental nature-based religion, a fertility religion, essentially, that is going to permeate the later beliefs and culture of India. I have for you on the right a fragment, sorry, that's the best I can come up with for a good comparison. This is a fertility figure. We are fairly confident of that coming from the Indus Valley civilization. It is a female figure, and I'd just like you to see the indentations, pinched waist, swelling hips, swelling breasts. It is a woman, very simplified in form, but richly decorated, relatively nude, except for the belt across her waist, and elaborate hairdo. And I think she also has some earrings that decorate her presence. This is going to be influential in female images that are associated with nature spirits or yakshis, such as the one that is located on the left. Yakshis are nature spirits. that are going to be absorbed by Hinduism and even by Buddhism. They are traceable, certainly, to pre Buddhist and pre Hindu fertility cults, but they're going to stick around and be absorbed. In fact, the story of the development of Hinduism is a little bit like making a soup. You first put in the chicken in the pot with the water. And then later, as the chicken's cooking, you put in the onions, and then you put in the potatoes, and then you add the celery, and then you add the carrots a bit later. By the time that you're through, you have a rich product, but none of the ingredients ever goes away. Each adds its own continuous flavor to the mixture. And that really, we think, is the emergence of Hinduism, beginning going all the way back to the foundation of the soup, and that would be in the Indus Valley region. The Yakshis are associated with the blossoming of trees and the growing of fruits. In other words, the arrival of fertility. And the Yakshi figure here reaches up into the tree and it literally flowers at her touch. So she, the spirit herself, the Yakshi, is inducing fertility in the world around us and causing the trees to bloom and to flourish. At the same time, she's becoming a bracket or a brace on an arch so that she is actually a part of an architectural support. She is a relatively nude figure similar to the one on the right. She is wearing jewelry hanging between her rather large breasts, large and swelling breasts. She's also swaying. Her figure can be described as rounded and swelling and curving, and that in and of itself is very Indian. It is a fleshy approach to creating the human form without interest in the bone structure underneath. The face of the female figure is calm, yet the body does seem to have an energy and a kind of pulsing or moving quality to it, a fluidity that suggests that it is in flux and in motion. The very sensual form of the woman does suggest a quality of abundance, of prosperity, and growth. And we do believe that that was her intent. Again, related very strongly to the early Indus Valley fertility cults. The pose that the woman is in is also one that will continue in Hindu art in the centuries that come forward. This particular work on the left is 3.7 in our book. It's one of the most famous remaining early Yakshi figures. It's first century BCE, and it would fall within the era of both Buddhism and Hinduism, yet it also maintains Indus Valley traditions. The pose that the woman's in, let's take a closer look at that. Is referred to as the Tribhanga. It is a triple bend posture that is often used in Indian art, and it adds a quality of sensuality. It just means triple bend pose, and it means that the body parts are moving in different directions. The head in one direction, the breast in another, and the hips in yet a third. We will look at this again. It is actually located on a gate that is marking the boundaries of a Buddhist monument, which should suggest to you an openness and a blending and mingling between the Indus Valley belief systems, Hinduism, and Buddhism, and that would be accurate. These are just a couple more. The top right is a fragment that can be found in the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. You can see it follows a similar pattern. The kind of belt that the lady's wearing, a long necklace that once upon a time hung between her rather large, abundant, and swelling breasts. The work at the bottom in the middle is located in the Philly Museum of Art. They have two or three things that you can see there that either are yakshis or are coming out of the tradition of yakshis, which are absorbed into Hinduism and into Buddhism. I like the one in the bottom right because, again, if you look, you can see that the lady, this is her hand, she's reaching up. and she's grabbing vegetation. And by doing so, she's bringing it to life. She's giving it the ability to sprout. Sorry. We can now return to Parvati, the image that we looked at in our introduction, and become easily aware that she is coming out of exactly the same tradition. Her figure leans just a little bit forward towards us. There's an asymmetrical bent of her body, but it's sensuous and it's curving. It is a lady who is fully endowed. Her breasts are rounded and swelling. In fact, the whole body is swelling. This is an image shown of a goddess located in what is commonly called a courtly or princely pose. She's on top of a throne. It's a lotus throne, and we'll try and talk about that a little bit later. Her face, like the excuse me, like the yakshi, is calm and relaxed, but the body seems to move fluidly and be displayed filled with vital energy. She is the goddess of love, of fertility, of devotion. She's the consort of the great god Shiva and essentially his feminine counterpart. She is also an important, I'm going to say, role model for Hindu women as well. Hinduism embraces then in its art, particularly its sculpture, where it's so easy to see, a very large degree of sensuality. Its religious figures display this, and this makes Hindu depictions unique. No other art style in the entire planet that I know of incorporate to this extent the degree of sensualism, of physicality into its religious creations.